Mombasa for me is a city of a lot of fun. But as I grew up, I came to Mombasa for different reasons. And as I came to the hotel yesterday, it brought back memories of this hotel when I used to know it about 30 years ago. I know some of you weren't here then, but it doesn't matter. But 30 years ago, I was married, I had 2 young children, but I came down on a bit of business, and so I was staying at the Nyali Hotel. And as I was waiting to have breakfast, a table next to me had about 7, 8 chairs, and in walked a mother with 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. And they were making so much noise, they were excited. Obviously, it was the holiday. They were talking to each other, they were asking questions, they were doing all manner of things. But I looked at them and I just thought, well, it's their time. Let them enjoy it. So I did my best to have my breakfast and try to ignore them. And this went on for another sort of like 15 minutes or so. And then all of a sudden, I noticed there was silence. And I looked, and there was this elderly man with gray hair had just joined them. And suddenly the silence was killing. The kids were whispering to each other every now and then. The wife was just eating, and nobody said a word. This went on for something like 15, 20 minutes of silence. And then all of a sudden, I heard a lot of noise. And I looked up, and the man was gone. And he seemed to be the cause of this. It really saddened me when I realized that actually that was the father of these children. And that particular scene started to bring me back to my days as a younger person. My father was in the army. He was a senior chaplain to the armed forces. And he was also a ranked officer in the army. And so he was concerned about us, the children, getting a great education. And so he did his best to give us the best education he could. He borrowed money, which I found out much later he did. Of course, at that age I didn't know, but he did. And we went to some of the best schools. I went to Lenana School. My sister went to Kenya High. And we were doing reasonably well. But at that particular time, holidays were about up. And what we did then is that instead of staying in Nairobi, where my father was, for some strange reason, we went to Taita. But we went to Taita with our mother. Now, Taita was not necessarily a bad place, but it was interesting that we would go to Taita without him, and it happened often. But anyway, my mother was loving and caring, and it was an amazing time we would spend in Taita. We spoke the language, we got to know our relatives, and we just basically enjoyed our time together in Taita. After about 3-4 weeks, the holidays would come to an end, and then we would have to come back to Nairobi. But what happened is that because the station we were going to, Motate, was a long way down the hills, we didn't have a car then, so we would have to walk. And it took a long time, at least for us. We were young then. My sister and I and my mother, who was there for us, we would walk down about 12 kilometers to a place called Motate. Motate was the local railway station, I beg your pardon. And it was at this railway station, the train came from Tanzania through to Taveta, and then came to Motate, and then went to Voi, went to Mombasa or Nairobi, whichever the case might be. But we were at Motate to catch the train to come to Nairobi. And remember, in those days, the train didn't come every day. It came once or twice every 2 weeks or something. And this day, particular day, I think, was a Saturday evening-ish, because I think we were arriving in Nairobi on a Sunday. And so the train came, and because it stayed for a very short time, it only stopped for 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, you had to find your space, your place, jump on the train, and my father was kind enough to put us on second class. And we found the spot, put our bags in our apartments, and come and stand at the railway station and wave goodbye to our parents. Of course, there were a lot of people who would come to see different people, because this train only came once a week. And so as the train started to slowly pull away, my mother, in her best effort, found her best voice and shouted in Kitaita, "Kulindie mudabana wako." They can understand what she said. She basically said, "Look after your manhood." Now, I honestly don't think I was a bad boy. But I think her motherly concerns for me were really big. And so it really concerned me. She was clearly concerned about my welfare, but my father was very busy in the army, doing the things that they do. But she was with us most of the time. But on a very, very serious note, one of the things that we need to do, and this is about looking after young men, bringing about young men up. I notice there are a lot of ladies here. And somehow you ladies seem to do the right thing. You're close to your girls, you spend time with your daughters, you teach them as they grow up, but we, the boys, have the father who's never around. We have to learn a lot of things on our own. And later on, as I grew older, as I am now, I started to look around and realize this problem truly exists. It's very rare that boys or men are talked to about sexual situations, sexual relationships with women, how we should handle the whole subject of sex with women, etc., etc. But I looked around at my grandson, who's only about 4 years, and I noticed that his father always spends time with him, always plays with him, and they spend this intimate time together. And I had a chat with him the other day. And I said to him, you know, this is something that most of us never had as boys, an opportunity to spend with our fathers, basically talking to us, telling us about life. Obviously, at 4, he's not telling him about sex, but but really, I told him that this is something he needs to keep up and have this conversation about sex with him. Because you look around today, and a lot of situations are brought on sexual situations that never really last long, and before, when that fun is done, the relationships fade. And sometimes they fade after they've been married. And so, I don't want to go deep into this. This is a fun evening. I really don't want to spoil it for you. But I want to tell you this. As men, we really need to think about that seriously, especially, I know for most of you are here alone, You need to get your husbands to talk to your sons about it early, so they get some sort of a discipline and understanding about some of these things. And I think it'll help the society a great deal. And I'm sure we can if we try. Thank you.